everybody, end of the week. And you didn't think you'd make it. Are you well, Pete?
Yes, very well.
Peter Clayton is with me behind the camera. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Welcome to The Garage, the Court of Public Opinion on Facebook and, of course, on podcast. Wherever you get your podcast from, I hope it'll become a favourite of yours and that you'll follow us. We do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, a new Court of Public Opinion every single day of the working week. And there's still more than enough to cover. Hey, we could do 7 days a week.
We could.
No, I won't. No, we'll do 5 days a week. It's all right. Before we get on to the stuff of the day, June 19, happy birthday if you're having a birthday or a wedding anniversary. I hope it'll be a really great day. Memorable day. We're really in the depths of winter here in Adelaide at the moment. June 16, 1903, on this day, Ford Motors, under Henry Ford, incorporates. So it wasn't really a company before this day. So happy birthday, Ford, wherever you are in the world, and they are just about everywhere. And Pepsi Cola, that's interesting, on the same day, incorporates. So Ford Motors and Pepsi Cola, happy birthday to you both. 90-year-old US cosmetics company Revlon files for bankruptcy, blaming supply issues and rising costs. This day, last year, 1 year from today. How could Revlon go bankrupt? Wow. 1884, the first roller coaster, Coney Island in New York, was set in motion. 1884. The film Grease opened, starring John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John, based on the 1971, I think it would have been, wouldn't it? 1971 musical. Robert Stigwood, Robert Stigwood Organisation, RSO, Adelaide boy, Robert Stigwood. I met him a few times here. He was a great friend of 5DN. Very, very nice man, Robert Stigwood. He was the man behind the film Grease. 78 was the year. John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John. 1942, Alan Howling Lord. Oh, yes, I remember him. Do you remember, he was the politician, the British politician, who was the leader of the official monster raving loony party. I love it. The monster raving loony party. He was born in Surrey on this day in 1942. Wherever Alan Howling Lord Hope is these days, I have no idea. I don't suspect he's still in Parliament. George Reeves, the American actor, does that name ring a bell? Adventures of Superman. He was also in Gone with the Wind. He played the part of a Confederate soldier, I think. A very small part, but memorable because of his future years and on the small screen. He kills himself. He was only 45. He suicides. Superman couldn't kill himself. Ridiculous. Anyway, 1959 was the year that this happened. The first US airplane was sold commercially by Glenn Curtis. It sold for $5,000 in 1909. Geronimo. Hey, Pete, we've got a picture of Geronimo.
Yes.
We should show that. Geronimo, Apache leader and resistance fighter. He was born in Cannon, Mexico. He died in 1909. He was born in 1829. Geronimo. Why do they yell Geronimo when they jump out of an aeroplane?
No idea.
Very weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Geronimo! Psycho, psychological horror film directed by Alfred Hitchcock, starring Janet Leigh and Anthony Perkins and Vera Miles, opens in New York City. Too much controversy. The year was 1960. Sir Thomas Mitchell, as in the Mitchell Library in Sydney, Australian explorer, died 1855, born 1792. William Lawson, British-Australian surveyor who explored... Oh, yes, well, he is William Lawson, Blaxland, Lawson and Wentworth, or Lawson, Blaxland, you know, the guys who went over the Blue Mountains, explorers, opened up Australia. Really? He died at the age of 74. 1850, opened up the Blue Mountains. Stan Laurel, the English comedian, Laurel and Hardy, who was born in 1890, he died in 1965, and British singer Rod Stewart, 62. Weds, model Penny Lancaster, who was 36, in a cloistered medieval abbey in 2007. Wow. Oh, and Catherine Graham. Oh, we used to talk to Catherine. Catherine Graham was the head of the Washington Post in all those Watergate days. She stood by her journalists who were rocking the boat. Boy, were they rocking the boat. You couldn't write all that stuff and speculate about the President of the United States. You know, can you imagine? Because it's a fascinating story. If ever you get to hear the story about Catherine Graham, her husband was the head of, he owned the Washington Post. And for some reason, he killed himself. And she had small children. She knew nothing about running a newspaper. She stepped up and did it brilliantly. And when these guys came to her and said, we've got this fantastic story, expose, Watergate, it will rock the country, and it did, we want to publish it. Now, if she'd been a wimp, she'd have said, oh, you can't do that to me. How the hell am I going to? No, you can't. Just shut up, sit on the story, spike it. No, she didn't. She put it on the front bloody page. That's what I call journalism. Catherine Graham, American newspaper publisher, the Washington Post, who led the paper as it reported on the Washington Watergate scandal, born in New York City. She died in 2001, but born in 1917. I really enjoyed talking with her. Inspirational woman. One tough journalist who really wasn't even a journalist, but she had the spirit. She understood. Where are we today? Let me see. Fair Work Australia. You would have heard. It's sort of old news now, but they voted to increase the wages of the lowest paid by between 5 and 8%, depending on awards and things like that. That's nothing. That's nothing compared to the executive class. The average executive salary increased, you might be interested in this, increased in the last 12 months by 15%. This is just the average. Very quietly. Managing directors, on average, recorded increases of up to 19%. 19%. The whole thing, whether it's 5% or 19%, is of course inflationary. The great evil, the cancer of the currency. So if you're serious about one thing, you can't not be serious about the other. In any case, I don't think anybody, anywhere in the pecking order, should get any more money unless he or she shows more productivity. Productivity, which means one either has to work harder or longer or produce more widgets or whatever. Productivity. Productivity. It should be, as it really in practical terms is, the only yardstick, the only justification. I want more money because I'm worth more money. That's simple. I wondered when this would start, and it has. Seatbelts in buses. I have no idea how practical that is. Some buses are already fitted with seatbelts. The problem is that there are no national bus regulations. Coaches are treated differently. A lot depends on how many seats the vehicle has. But when bus accidents are so infrequent, I really can't see how seatbelts can be justified. There are also infrequent train crashes, derailments and mishaps. I've never heard anyone suggest seatbelts for passengers on trains. Can you imagine legislating that? I mean, forcing bus operators to retrofit tens of thousands of buses on Australian roads? I can't imagine it. If you're looking to pass legislation in the interest of saving lives on our roads, the first thing you would do would be to ban motorcycles. Ever ridden a motorcycle, Pete?
Yes.
What did you think?
I loved it, but
You're still with us.
I only had one for about 6 months or something.
I personally believe that they're the most dangerous means of transport. I think they are you are as good as dead transport option, frankly. But you know what they call people who ride motorbikes, Pete?
Temporary Australians.
Temporary Australians. Temporary Australians. You'd save an awful lot of lives by banning motorcycles and probably bicycles than you would by forcing bus operators to put in seatbelts. Just a thought. You may have a completely different opinion. I wish I was on talk radio because we would discuss this at length. I don't know why we have in this inclusive land of equality called Australia a Minister for Aboriginal Affairs. Or is it a Minister for Indigenous Affairs? I'm not sure, but you know what I mean. We do not have a Minister for Caucasian Affairs or a Minister for the many people from Europe affairs, a Minister for European Affairs or India or China. Why do we have a Minister for Aboriginal Affairs? Isn't that rather racist? Well, it's not rather racist, it is racist. Which of course brings me to The Voice. Linda Burney, the Minister for Aboriginal Affairs, is reported here as having a go at the No campaign and the No campaigners. Her argument, or annoyance, brought on, I guess, because the Yes campaign is falling behind in the polls, and so it should, because it will achieve nothing. It won't close the gap, but it will complicate what is already pretty complicated. It will cost money and do no good. That, of course, is my opinion. Now, she accused the No campaign of adopting Trump-style tactics, whatever Trump-style tactics are. But, Minister, if you mean irrational and crazy, well, you don't have to look too far from the Yes campaign to find all of that and a lot more. Rambling nonsense, if you ask me. But then again, I like to have an opinion, and I know you like to have an opinion. And Pete, your opinion?
I'm voting no, don't worry about that.
Yeah. You got another note from Jacinta Price.
Yes.
You guys having a relationship back there?
Well, I'm in awe of her.
I think she's a great lady, yeah. And Warren Mundine, too, is a very smart guy.
This latest...
The latest letter?
was basically saying, someone in the Yes campaign has said they're talking too much Basically, they're shooting themselves in the foot.
No, look, I don't know. They're talking rubbish. I don't mind if people talk too much as long as they talk sense. For 40 years, it could be longer, but my first recollection is about 40 years ago, they've been talking about fast trains. I remember pictures of Malcolm and Tammy Fraser in Japan on a very fast train, and his comments at the time as to why Australia needed to have this means of efficient transport. Just about every election, somebody trots it out. I discovered the other day that we have spent over $159 million on surveys, scoping, and field work, whatever that is, field work. Nothing to show for it. Not 1 inch of high-speed rail track, let alone very high-speed rail track. Keep in mind, leaving Japan to one side, China keeps rolling out thousands of miles of very high-speed rail every year. We keep talking and debating, doing surveys, I suppose, I don't know, doing nothing really. Well, these other countries, recently regarded as backward or third world, way ahead of us. What is it? Is it leadership? Is it apathy? Is it laziness? Incompetence? Politics? Anyway, we now have, ladies and gentlemen, a high-speed rail authority. Did you know that? A high-speed rail authority. I did. Now, they're going to try and break through and achieve what everyone up until now has just talked about. Well, we'll see. Don't hold your breath. I'm talking about transport. Qantas came up with something the other day. Qantas flight attendants. The rules have changed. Men can now have longer hair and wear makeup. Why would a man want to... my days in television, the thing I remember mostly about my days in television, apart from, the odd panic-stricken moment, was the awful business of having to wear makeup. Now, I don't wear any makeup to do this thing, and I wouldn't, but anyway, you go to work as a male flight attendant and you can wear makeup. Women can wear short hair and not wear makeup. And don't have to wear high heels, by the way. The job of flight attendant seems to attract a lot of gay men. I know that, and probably gay women. Why, I don't know. Maybe it's glamorous, I suppose. Or you can do dress-ups and things. But I still long for those wonderful, glamorous days when the hostess, not a flight attendant, but a hostess, who may have been gay, I don't know, but she was hired because she was stunning. She was beautiful. A glorified waitress, perhaps, but the fantasy of many a young man, or many a young man. I was one of them. Alan Joyce, I don't know what you've done. Do you remember when Reg Ansett got into trouble? When people were hiring hostesses that weren't on the glamorous side of life. He called them publicly in an interview. He called them a whole bunch of old boilers. And it did not go down well. Now, look, I think women have this wonderful area of fantasy in men's minds, and they should keep it. Have I got time for one more, Pete?
Yes.
I've lost track of time. The absence of Australian-made products in the supermarket. Gee whiz. The Australian-made logo. the logo and millions of dollars on advertising and lots of wasted goodwill because we all want to do it. We all want to buy Australian. What in God's name are we doing? Still, after all these years, orange juice from Brazil. Have a look at this. Now, I think, Pete, I can get this on the screen.
Yes.
Bacon. Bacon. Everything tastes better with bacon. I could only find one brand of bacon that was Australian, and it was only 99% Australian. What happened to the other 1%, I wonder? Wunderlich, which I think is a German name. It's a South Australian brand, and beautiful, beautiful bacon. But every other popular brand that you and I know, only between 2 and 20% Australian, 2 and 20% Australian bacon. Oh, I don't know. It makes you wonder what the words, why are they playing with these words? And that 2 to 20% Australian probably includes the packaging. What is going on? Where are we sending our high-quality homegrown pork? And there are thousands of other examples. Who's calling the shots? Who's running the show? I'm fond of quoting the fact that we can and we do produce enough food to feed 75 million people right here in Australia, with a population of 25 or 26 million. We do that every year. Now, where is it all going? Why are we not looking after the local market? Why are we importing products that we have already produced in Australia? Are they exported and processed somewhere else? I don't know what's going on. There should be an inquiry into Australian made. Why is it that we were once independent? We were independent in fuel. We had refineries that produced everything that we needed. Now we've got maybe a 30 or 60 days supply if we're lucky. What do we do after that? Why would we allow ourselves to become vulnerable? Why do we elect governments that allow us to become vulnerable? Having to import our food and fuel and just about everything else when we were so wonderfully proud of everything that we made, which was just about everything. Should I wrap it up, Pete? I should, okay. Have a lovely weekend. Take very good care of yourselves. If you're driving, drive carefully. I'm Jeremy Cordo. Peter Clayton and I will be back on Monday. Believe in yourselves, and goodbye for now.